UFC Riyadh is this Saturday, and don't miss it. It is going to be an early start, but we have 11 fights. I'm super excited for this card. It's a free card, not even a pay-per-view, but we have some banger fights on this card, and we might end up with a late notice replacement, but still 11 fights on this card, and I'm going to break down each and every one of them, as always, starting at the bottom, working my way to the top. So let me know in the comments what bets you guys have locked in, and what you guys think, 1 to 10. What do you guys rate in this card? Because for a free card, man, I think this is a fire card. And Saudi Arabia, maybe they have some sort of thing in their deal to get these great cards. But I'm really excited for this card, man. There's some really fun fights, and I got a couple bets locked in. So let me know in the comments your guys' bets. Leave a like on this video. Click subscribe. Turn those post notifications on so you don't miss Wager Wars. We are going live. I'm going to have two great guests going against each other, putting their bets to the test to see who has the best one. We got the leaderboards, the rankings are filling up. So let me know if you want to get on Wager Wars, because we are bringing a ton of great guests on every single week. Man, let's get into it. First fight on the card, we got Hamdi Abdelawab taking on Jamal Pois. And Hamdi, you might remember, he fought Dontel Mays 2.5 years ago, and then he did pop for some PEDs. And they gave him a 2-year suspension, which, that's pretty long. That was one of, USADA hadn't been popping people for a while. So, they caught him pretty red-handed. This is the new regime. This isn't USADA. And they are out there in Saudi Arabia. So, let's be real. I'm just saying it's a little bit more lax. Maybe that'll be a factor. Who knows? Or, I don't know. It's just something to think about. He is coming, it is a long layoff. Jamal Pois, he's had some ups and downs, That Mick Parkin fight was pretty bad. But, Mick Parkin, it's not the worst loss ever. He did beat Thomas Peterson. And before that loss, Thomas Peterson, people were kind of hyping him up. We're going to talk about him later. Josh Parisian, this Paulo Renato in the Contender Series. Yeah, it's not the best wins ever, but Hamdi's 3-0. Now, he has had a lot of time to make improvements. Maybe he's going to come in better than we've seen, and, maybe he's going to come in great shape. I've been trying to see what I can on Instagram, but, it's hard to see too much from either one of these guys. They're kind of low-key, but, at the same time, I do feel like Jamal Pois is the more skilled guy, but, Hamdi's going to have, it's a little bit of home field advantage, just saying. The little maybe lax testing, just got to say it, just being real. And then, maybe he's obviously got that Olympic wrestling pedigree, but 2.5 years to hone, some new skills. It makes it dicey enough. I guess I'm going to stick with my pick, Jamal Pois, as a slight underdog, but it's a dicey fight, man. Probably one to just keep your money. But I'll stick with my pick of Pogs, and we'll move on to the next fight. Next up, we got Bogden Grad taking on Lucas Alexander. An Austrian and a Brazilian. Grad, you might remember, he got the win over Michael Oswell. I actually bet Oswell as an underdog, one of the few underdogs I didn't cash on Contender Series. God, we raked it in. Contender Series, man, I can't wait for that to come back. 9-1 on this last season. Only had one card where we missed, where we lost half a unit. But anyways, one of the few bets we didn't hit on Contender Series was Oswell. A lot of people thought he won, me included. Obviously, I was biased. That being said, Michael Oswell did give us a shout he saw the breakdown and replied to the video or whatever. Shout out to Michael Oswell. We'll be seeing him in the UFC soon. But, that Oswell's a beast, man. He's got good boxing and he good gas tank. And, he poured it on late. But Grad does slow down a little bit. He carries a lot of muscle. Maybe we could see, but we've seen Alexander slow down too. We've seen him slow down. We've seen him get finished. I don't know. Bogden, I do feel like he's going to have a decent grappling advantage here. And he opened as a 2-1 favorite, but he's about to be the dog. There's he's the dog right now. There's plus money on him right now. So I was prepared to bet him at minus 125 when that line first came down from minus 200. I was like, okay, if I can bet him I mean, just the low, minus 125 or something. I was happy with that. Now I'm gonna get plus money on him. So I haven't bet him yet, only because the line still. I mean, unless Vegas knows something I don't know, or the people out, not Vegas, the people out there in Saudi, unless they're seeing some sort of injury or something. Like, I don't know. I think I also was looking at the submission line. I want to see that open on more books later on in the week, but it's sitting at like 7-1 right now. I don't hate that. We've seen Alexander get submitted a couple times to decent grapplers, but I think Grad is a decent grappler as well, and he's gonna have a decent like strength, and I just think he's the more athletic guy too. He's gonna be able to like rip this guy down. I will say Lucas is fast. He's gonna be quick on the feet for sure. So maybe that can be a problem for Bogden. He's not the fastest, but I think he can drag him down, use that grappling. If they just strike, it's gonna be a little dicey. But give me Bogden here. I think I'm leaning decision. I don't know, man. Decision or sub. That's why I like that 7-1. Yeah, but I'm gonna go with the slight underdog now. Big line movement though, so it's a little sketchy. We'll move on though. We got Jasmine Jasnovic taking on Myra Bueno Silva. Look, if you guys been watching the channel for a while, I've faded Myra Bueno Silva a lot. I haven't been the biggest on her. I faded her in that Farrar fight, won there. But then I remember I tried to fade her against Holly Holm. That didn't work out. It was looking pretty good, and then, got the ninja choke. Obviously, it doesn't matter for me that it got overturned. I don't get my money back. But I did fade her in these last two fights and, cashed. Because I've just never been big on Myra, man. She's got good subs, and she's, reckless, which she'll open up shots on the feet. But it also opens up her to get clipped, and she's got no striking defense. She's got no takedown to support that jiu-jitsu. So, if girls come at her with a good game plan, they can win minutes, and then, she slows down too as the fight goes on. Jasmine's going to have the gas tank here. She's going to have the wrestling. On the feet, I think it's pretty competitive, but I think Jasmine's going to be able to get the takedowns, man. Myra's there to be taken down, and I just don't see Jasmine putting herself in some sort of armbar, It's possible. It's definitely possible, especially in women's MMA. It just happens more. These girls get these arm bars from guard all the time. But, do you really want to bet on that? It's one thing if it's like a 4 or 5-1 underdog. But, are you really trying to like straight up pick somebody to win the fight when you think they're going to be on their back? I don't. Not in 2025. Maybe in the year 2000. But these days, no. Anyways, I'm going to go Jasmine. It's probably decision, but I was looking at those late props and some interesting props there I want to look at more for the next couple days as those open up. But I'll talk about it later on my short video, like Thursday night, Friday. And maybe on Wager Wars live. But, I'm looking at some props there for Jasmine because, the decision is like minus 185 or something like that. Like, that was crazy. I think she could get a late finish, so I'm going to be looking at those a little bit, but we'll move on to the next one. We got Terence McKee taking on Demian Hadzovic. This is a fight where the UFC is obviously trying to bounce Terence back. He's had a little bit of a rough run lately. He had the 2 knockouts, or got finished by Bonfim, and then he got choked out by Sadyka. I actually think that dude's pretty good, but got a couple wins, low level, and then Ribovics, and that was brutal. He's had a couple that and the Bonfim knockouts were super brutal. Demir can knock you out, man. He's got power, but he is 38 years old. No grappling, and that's the thing is everybody's talking about Terence gonna knock him out, but I think if Terence wants to, he'd come out here and take him down. That's no hot take. He's got good wrestling. It's not like the most technical, but he just comes out and like. Just in that first round, he's tough. Like, he's a fucking scary dude in that first round, man. It's all about just if you can survive that. But do I think a 38-year-old who's kind of a brawler himself is going to be the one that's going to, weather that storm? Not really. I think Terence going to take him down and submit him, to be honest. He needs a win. I think he just takes him down, submits him. But, we've seen that happen to Demian before. But maybe McKinney does just catch him with something or get caught with something early, and then they just end up throwing. And that type of fight, I was looking at Demire's knockout props because if he wins, it's going to be a knockout. We've seen McKinney get knocked out like 5 of his 7 losses. If he just trades with Demian, that Demian could knock him out. It was like 6-1 or something like that. So, it's definitely possible for sure. It's another prop to keep your eye out for, but I'll be looking at those props a little bit more as the week goes on and as it opens up on more props. But I'll take Terence McKinney first round sub. And we move on to Shamil Gaziev taking on Thomas Peterson. This is an interesting one, man, because, last, 311, it was a good week for me, but one of the only 2 bets I missed was the only Russian I faded on the card. And, we're back in, yes, Saudi Arabia, but still, you don't want to get in the habit of fading Russians and, Muslims out here in this, in this region. And, yeah, Bahrain, different country, but, look at the beard, okay? Gaziev trains with a lot of Russian guys, trains with a lot of people from this region. They're a fan of him. And, if this fight goes 15, I think Peterson could make it really close. But if it's close, you got to lean Gaziev, man. It is what it is. If there's a finish, I'm leaning Gaziev. He's going to be the bigger, harder hitting guy. Peterson doesn't have a ton of pop to his shots for a heavyweight. But, and obviously we saw that bad performance against Jamal Pokes. We talked about that. But, he's pretty young in his career, 29 for a heavyweight. He's going to be getting better, but it's just you don't really want to get in the habit of fading dudes with beards and no mustaches out here in this region, man. You'll go broke trying to do that. But it's plus 300 in a low level heavyweight fight, man. I faded Gaziev against Rosenstrm, another guy we're going to be talking about later. I had a big bet on Rosenstrm that night. That was such a fun cash, but different circumstances, man, and I don't know, much lower level guy, but I do think Peterson is more alive than plus 300, man. If you're parlaying Gaziev, I think you're a little bit crazy, man. Gaziev is a little bit of a fraud, but he probably gets the early finish here. If he doesn't, it's gonna be a sweat. It's gonna be dicey and ugly, but give me Gaziev first round knockout, and we'll see. But if that line gets like crazier, they're going to force my hand. But I really don't want to fade Khabib's out here in this region. Next up, we got Muhammad Naimov taking on Con Ofley. This is a fight this is a big favor where I am confident in, man. I know everybody, I swear everybody I've been hearing talk about Naimov since that Lima fight. They're like, oh, this dude's a bomb. He sucks. And I get it. Like, his resume isn't that crazy, He pulled some dirty moves against Nathaniel Wood. He also had a bunch of size on him, Nathaniel coming up. Eric Silva got hurt. Jamie Malarkey was winning that fight, and then he clipped him. And it's like Jamie Malarkey has, lost fights, been finished before. It is what it is. So it's not that his resume is that crazy, but I honestly do see the skills when I watch him fight, And people are trying to rewrite history like he wasn't winning that fight. And people are like, it was competitive, but I thought Naimov, as somebody who had money on Naimov and lost money in that, so it is what it is, I thought he was up 2-0. I was feeling pretty good. Now, he was gassing, but Lima, Lima's a beast. We've seen that now. Lima's good. And Naimov, at worst, it was 1-1. You cannot tell me Lima was up 2-0 when he won that. And the judges agree with me. So, hopefully I'm just not that, I watched The Ultimate Fighter, definitely not when it first was coming out, but I went back and watched it for some of these guys who have coming off of it. And, pretty solid, not bad, but, if he gets the Naimov's back, yeah, not just because that's what Lima did, but that's what this dude seems to specialize at, If he gets on top of you, if he gets a dominant position, he can be dangerous, but I don't think his striking's that good. I think Naimov can pick him apart on the feet. And I don't really see Oley having like the greatest takedowns. I don't really see him just putting Imavov on his back, taking his back, but if he does, it's gonna be sketchy. That's his path for sure, but I think Imavov wins. And I parlayed him at minus 250 with somebody we're gonna be talking about here soon in my only parlay on this card. I just think he wins, man, and you could still get him on a couple books at like minus 250, 260. That's where my head's at. Next up, we got the other leg of my parlay. We got Farrar taking on Mike Davis, and this is a competitive fight. I like Zion. I think he's I think he's good. Obviously, coming off a great win, that crazy knee over Favola, a solid win for sure. And Mike Davis has been super inactive, so it doesn't shock me when you see these Tapology numbers. Everybody going with Zion. That is a trend. That's a bit of a losing trend, though. And you got the underdog with the big Tapology favorite. But, just saying. Look into it. Eddie Braj. Anyways, Mike Davis, the Thomas Gifford, okay, it is what it is. Probably survived too long. Hey, let's not rewrite history on this fight, though. Everybody was hyped up on Macy Jones going into this one. He derailed that, gave him his first loss. Beat up Borshev. Rinsed Natan Levy. Pretty solid. His problem has just been injury, and it's been, just not being able to be active. But I am a little biased. I like Mike Davis. We got some mutual friends, and he's a Twitch homie, and but I'm pretty good at setting that stuff aside, man. It is what it is. I've had to pick against people that I consider friends before. Never loved doing it, but you have to do what you got to do. And Zion is dangerous. His striking's good. If this just is a striking fight, it's gonna be. I don't think Mike Davis can't win that fight, but it's definitely not the path. What Mike does good is mix it up. He's got. He's just really well rounded. He's got a good fight IQ. He can mix it up pretty well. Very well. Pretty big guy, pretty strong, like pretty athletic. And I just think he's the more well-rounded guy, man. It's not too long ago. Now, the Favola win was good, and he wrestled well in that fight. But let's not forget that hasn't even been a year since Claudio Puelles took him down 7-8 times. You know what I mean? Like noodle body Puelles, who can't wrestle anybody. Bro, if Puelles can take you down 7-8 times, Mike Davis can take you down, period. You didn't get that much better at wrestling in 11 months. You just didn't. That's not how it works. So, maybe that frame gives Zion more trouble when guys can a little bit match him with that height and reach. So, obviously Zion has a little bit of an advantage in both of those, but, Favola, maybe that body style is better for Zion, or maybe it was just a good night. Maybe he has gotten better. It's a combination of all three. Who knows? But I like Mike Davis, man. I think he's very well-rounded. I think his fight IQ is good. And I think he's got a chip on his shoulder because he knows that the injuries have, been holding him back. So I don't think he wants... Oh, I know. And I know Zion's hungry too. But I just feel like Davis, man, I think he's very hungry to get this win, man. He's been on the shelf for a while. And I think he gets it done. So... Mike Davis, I parlayed him with Imavov. That got me plus 133. That's what I did for its little two-legger. And I will take him. I think it's a decision, but he could get another submission. Next up, we got a dope fight. We got Said Nurmagomedov taking on Vinicius Olivera. Another really fun fight, man. I'm really into this one. And, you do have a Nurmagomedov, a Russian, out in this region. Something to think about. I'll be honest, when I first saw this and Vinicius was like plus 165, I was thinking about betting him, man. I really was. Vinicius on a tear. Sopaj gave him some trouble, but hey, finish him with a crazy highlight reel. Stuffed Ricky Simone's takedowns, beat him up pretty convincingly. This is a different matchup, though. Said's, he'll mix in some takedowns, but he's mainly looking to strike. They're probably going to strike for at least most of the fight. It's going to be interesting, man. Vinicius has been finished in all 3 of his losses, and all 3 of Nurmagomedov's losses have been a decision. So, you got to edge Saeed a little bit with the durability, just on paper. But Vinicius is going to have more firepower, man. He is probably like the harder hitter. He might not be quite as technical on the feet as Saeed. And he has some submission threat, but Saeed with those front chokes is nasty. And then you do gotta factor in, if this goes 15, not only is Saeed the more durable guy on paper, but he's got the Nurmagomedov last name and he's a Russian. Look, it is what it is, man. We've seen it time and time again. I don't like to. I think this is only the second time I mentioned it, but you got to, man. It is what it is, especially with that last name. If this is a close fight, Saeed's winning. Period. They're not giving it to the Brazilian dude. They're giving it to Nurmagomedov, even though they're not related. It is what it is. That being said, Vinicius is going to be dangerous, man. He's so dangerous with his strikes, man. He's going to go for it. That's why he's been finished a couple times. People will be like, oh, he has no chin. Maybe he doesn't have the greatest chin. But if you watch him fight, man, of course he's been knocked out a couple times. Look at how he fights. This guy's a madman. Look at his freaking picture right there. That guy he ain't playing it safe, man. He's trying to take your freaking head off. And when you fight like that, you get your head taken off sometimes. This is a fun fight, man. The winner of this fight, I love this division so much, man. I'm secretly pulling for Vinicius, man. But I guess I got to go with my gut. And I think Saeed edges it, man. He probably edges it out, but it would be sick if Vinicius. No offense to Saeed, but it would be sick if Vinicius. He's just so hype. He's so fun to watch. If he got another highlight reel finish, that would be sick. But I do love Saeed in those front chokes, so that would be pretty sick if he could land. I just want to see like a finish and a good fight, but I'm going to go Saeed. I'm not going to bet on this one, though. I'm just going to watch that as a fan, though, man. Next up, we got that big boys, man. Sergey Pavlovich taking on Jairzinho Rosenstrm. This is another interesting one, man. This card is sick. Obviously another Russian in this fight, but Pavlovich coming off a pretty tough, not only 2 losses, but the last one was almost worse than the Aspinall loss. Aspinall, okay, did what he's done to everybody. It is what it is. But the Volkov fight it was not just because he got dominated, but he fought out of character, Like, he wasn't just letting his combinations go. He wasn't coming forward the whole time. And when he was coming forward, he was just kind of like walking into shots. He looked a little hesitant, man. And maybe it was the training they've done together. Maybe it was, some of the, I don't know, who knows? Maybe Volkov actually was the one who was getting the better of him in training. Who knows? Or maybe not. Maybe that was a weird mental block. Either way, you never know. Or maybe it was just an off night. Or maybe Volkov's just gotten a ton better. Or maybe it's a combination of all 3. That's the crazy thing about this sport. But, Pavlovich, man, he's got crazy long arms. 84-inch reach in this division. And, he's going to have a little bit of height. I think more than an inch, regardless of who's lying. More than an inch on Rosenstrm. And he's got those freaking gorilla arms. Pavlovich is. That is. But, Rosenstrm can be a little low volume sometimes, when he's not beating Gaziev's head in. But, he's a great counter striker. So Pavlovich comes in, overextends. He could get clipped for sure. We've seen Rosenstrm do that to guys. So, maybe he could do that again. Overall, man, I do got to side with Pavlovich. But, the styles, the way that, Pavlovich, if he comes in overly aggressive, a good counter striker like Rosenstrm, and if Pavlovich is a little shook off these 2 losses, Rosenstrm is live for sure. At those kind of numbers in a heavyweight fight, man, I don't hate anybody taking a shot on Rosenstrm because it did cross my mind. Both heavyweight fights are kind of interesting to me. Well, all 3 really, but this one and that Gaziev fight, I do feel like the underdog's live, but I got to go with Pavlovich, and we'll move on to the co-main event. We got Shara Magomedov taking on Michael Venom Page. Oh, man, this one's been rough for me. This one's been hard for me to pick. man, shout out to this card, man. This is a great card, but you know, MVP coming up to 185. Is it because he sees something in this fight? I think he wants to finish out at 185 still. I don't think it's just this fight. So, you know, that makes you think, you know, maybe he's just done cutting weight. But I will say, you know, Char's not the biggest 185er. He's actually 1 inch shorter reach too. But he is naturally a little bit bigger than MVP. I'd be interested to see, you know, what Char is weighing. They don't do the little same or the day of weigh just to see what it is out there in Saudi typically, like Cali does, for example. But you know, I'd be interested to see. I don't feel like he cuts a ton of weight, but he is going to be the bigger guy. It's not like he's some great grappler though. You know, it's in the, you know, we've seen him get wrestled, so I don't think he's going to be like taking MVP down. And if they're just striking, you know, I don't think it's going to matter too much with the size. I will say if he wants to and it gets close, he might be able to put MVP up just up against the cage a little bit. Use a little bit of that natural strength that he probably will have to put MVP up against the cage. You know, he's used to fighting guys that are going to be much bigger and stronger than MVP. That's something to think about. As far as the striking goes, man, it is interesting, man. Like, it's interesting because, you know, MVP, you know, so it wasn't long ago, and I know Holland, a guy I faded a ton. That was a fight where, you know, I get it's Holland, but he made Holland look like an amateur out there. I mean, he absolutely dog walked him. If you're going to strike with MVP, you know, Ian Gary was out there shooting on him. You know, Kevin Holland was trying to grapple. Just in general, you know, like typically the path is to grapple this guy. Chara's not really going to have the means to do that. Maybe, like I said, a little clinching, but I don't see him going out here and shooting takedowns. The thing is, man, MVP is 37, coming up in weight. He's fighting Chara at home. It's got to be mentioned. Chara is probably the biggest fan favorite out in this region on this card right now. So, you know, if this is a close fight, a close kickboxing match for 15 minutes, you know, who do you think they're going to give it to? Sorry, I had to get that out of my freaking system. I'm coming over a sickness if you can't tell, but I was sick all week last week. But anyways, if this is close, man, you gotta think they're giving it to Chara. But you know, man, is that enough to be confident? I don't think. I think it's definitely got to be dog or pass, man. I lean ever so slightly to another close decision going away from MVP. If it's not clear cut, man, you got the young undefeated guy at home, fan favorite, against the aging vet who's in this twilight of his career where he's like taking fun fights, going up in division, doesn't want to cut weight. Come on, man. We've seen this story 1,000 times. MVP's got to like drop him and like make this convincing, or it's going Chara. So I'm gonna go Chara decision. I really want to bet MVP, man. I do feel like, you know, he's the better striker. If this was a couple years ago, man, he'd be a pretty big favorite here. But I'm gonna go Chara to win a close decision, probably controversial. And we'll move on to the main event. We got Israel Adesanya taking on Nasruddin Imavov. If you made it this far, man, I appreciate you. Leave a like on the video. Click subscribe. Really helps out the channel a lot. And don't miss out on Wager Wars. Turn those post notifications on so you don't. Live every week. Twice for the pay-per-views. Main event time, man. Let me know in the comments who y'all got here too, man. Because this is an interesting one for me, man. You got Izzy. Yeah, he's coming off a little bit of a tough run, but I mean, you know, not the most fun fight in the Jared fight, but it was one-way traffic. Then he gets knocked out for Alex. Then he knocks Alex out. Probably like, you know, I mean, especially if this fight doesn't go well, it's kind of like his, you know, pour la vie last moment. And then, you know, terrible performance against Strickland. It is what it is. Gets dog walked. Comes back. He was looking pretty good in the DDP fight, but, you know, then it looked like he slowed down. he looked pretty slow out there after. I mean, he didn't look the quickest at all in general, but then especially once he slowed down, he really looked slow, and then just kind of looked like he kind of broke. Honestly, it wasn't look like he was completely dead to rights. He just a second he got taken down, I was like, oh, it's over. He's done. And it's a little bit sketchy, at 35 and a half years old, a former champ, second best middleweight of all time. And I wasn't always the biggest fan, but I got to say, man, I've been rooting for him a little bit lately, it seems like, with age, he's grown a lot and, he's a lot more likable now. Maybe he was playing a character more before, leaning into it, whatever. But, I've been rooting for him, so I'm definitely not biased against him. That being said, man, you got the aging vet again in that twilight of his career, like an MVP. Not so much yet, obviously, but still, and even more so in the sense of former champ. He's even said himself I just want to have fun fights. I'm not worried about the title, yada yada. Nasruddin on the other end, 28, about to be 29, he's going to be able to match him for not on the reach, but on overall size. Imavov's big, and he's well-rounded, and he's hungry, and he's young, and he hasn't had that title. He's not rich. He's making high money. He's not even probably getting paid $100K. Yeah, he's probably making six figures now, but because he's had some couple little small main events. But regardless, he's not rich by any means. And this is the biggest fight of his career, so maybe he'll crack under that pressure, or maybe this is going to be the best we've ever seen at this age, with good training partners and good coaches around him. You got to think he's going to be making leaps between these fights, and I have been pretty impressed. I did think the Jared fight was a little early stoppage, but I was impressed in that Brendan Allen fight. I was impressed even in that Dolidze fight. He pushed and handled some adversity, and I don't know. I just think that this Saturday night's probably going to be the best we've ever seen him, so I had to go ahead and take a little plus 153. I bet that. I think right now he's plus 140 you can still get. I just think Imavov, man, young, hungry, well-rounded. I think Izzy's been looking a little slower. I haven't loved a lot of the things he's saying. This isn't nowhere near. This isn't even top 7. This isn't even top, this might not even be, I don't know. This is another day at the office for him. This is the biggest night of Imavov's life. Maybe Imavov will crack to that pressure. I think he's going to show up. So I bet Imavov plus 153. Let me run through my picks one last time. I got Imavov. Oh, man. I'm thinking submission. Man, I'm thinking maybe another submission. It could be a decision, but I don't know. If it goes 5, it is probably going to get dicey. We've seen both these guys slow down at this point, but, maybe Izzy can do it again. I don't know, but I'm going to go Imavov. Next up, I got Shara. Close, controversial decision, honestly. I'm going to go Pavlovich. I'm going to go Pavlovich by knockout. I'm going to go Saeed by decision. I'm going to go Mike Davis decision. I'm going to go Naimov by knockout. Gazia by knockout. Terence McKinney submission. Jasmine Jasdavicius by decision. Bogden by submission. And Jamal Pois by decision. Those are my picks. Bets I already have locked in. Imavov plus 153. I will be betting Grod. I'm waiting for that line because it's still going my direction. I have the parlay Naimov and Davis plus 133. There's some more like the props I've mentioned throughout the video. Couple money lines I'm still interested in. You can probably guess on those. But I'll drop more content throughout the week, so check out that. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Turn those post notifications on, especially for the live chats or the live streams. Wager Wars in particular. Gonna get some great guests on later on in the week, so come through. Appreciate you guys, man. Like the video if you liked it, that is, or dislike it and just tell me it's the worst video I've ever watched. I appreciate you guys, man. I'll catch you later on in the week. Good luck. Until then.